Welcome to the Reducing Insurance Journal, the data edition. This is a weekly e-journal brought directly to your inbox. To subscribe, visit ridjournal.com. In today's issue, we are going to explore the topic, why are PPO practices high overhead practices? You can also listen to us as a podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast tool. If you like video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, RID Journal. I am Ben Tuine, your host for today's edition. Let's dive straight into this. So my guest today is my good friend and trusted colleague, Naren Arudraja. Naren, great to be with you today.
Hey, Ben, it's so nice to be here with you. It's a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. I actually really love this topic, and I'm really excited to hear your feedback about this. So let's jump straight in. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about a very, very important topic, which is overhead. In our experience, we notice PPO practices are very, very high overhead practices. We're going to examine why and what we can do about it. So, Naren, let me ask you to first define, what is an ideal overhead for a successful dental practice?
Great question, Ben. Let me define overhead. The way we define overhead is what you collect minus what the owner dentist takes home. So for example, you as the owner dentist, if you take home $250,000 and you collect $1 million, your overhead, which is all your other expenses, is $750,000. So you want to know what your overhead is, because by knowing your overhead, you know how much you're going to take home. So the lower the overhead, the more money you as the owner dentist takes home. So the ideal overhead in my mind is 60% or less. So for example, if you're collecting $1 million, all your other expenses outside of owner dentist compensation should be $600,000 or less. So it should be 60% or less. And I have seen practices that have overhead of 50% or less. That means they're making $1 million, they're spending $500,000, and the owner dentist keeps $500,000. That's an amazing practice. It can be done, but it's not easy. So I would say less than 5% of the practices have 50% or less overhead, probably even less. So if you can even do 60% or less overhead, you're doing really well. But according to the ADA, the American Dental Association, this is pre-COVID, the average overhead was 74%.
Wow.
That means the owner dentist only kept 26% of what he collected. So sometimes it's even better to work as an associate, because at least associates get to keep 30% of what they collect. So unfortunately for the average dentist, unless they get this problem under control, they're not doing too well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for going through that. My experience, Naren, I deal in the world of practices that are primarily in network with PPOs, and having looked at thousands of practices in my career, PPO practices typically are high overhead or extremely high overhead, right? They have 70 to 75 or 80%, and sometimes even more than that in terms of their overhead percentage. Why do you think that is for PPO practices?
That's a great question, Ben. I think the simple answer is the PPO that you're partnered with. Most PPO practices, as you know, Ben, when they are working with PPOs, they are having 70, 80% of their patients who are PPO patients. It's almost like once you get sucked into it, it's hard to reduce it. It gets more and more and more. It's like, imagine somebody, a kid growing up in the projects, and let's say there's a lot of people who are living next to him or her are gangsters or gangbangers. Then of course the chance of that kid surviving that and getting out of it is really remote. Doesn't matter how great the kid is, doesn't matter how great the mom or the dad is, because of that influence, right? So it just sucks you in more and more. So you are 100% right. Once PPO practice gets in network, they will have most of their patients who are PPO patients. And the problem with that is the PPO practice will take money off the top. So let's say you do $1,000 worth of dentistry, the PPO practice might only give you $500. So because your UCR fee is $1,000, but a PPO will say you can't charge $1,000 because we control how much you can charge. Let's say we let you charge $800. Now after $800, they're not going to give you the entire $800. They might only give you $500. So imagine giving half of what you earned right off the top without you even seeing it to the insurance company. And that's not happening with one patient. That's happening with, let's say, 80% of your patients. So it can really, really add up. Like for a typical $1 million PPO dependent practice, that amount you give up to the insurance company in the form of a PPO adjustment, we see that number at $550,000, meaning you're collecting $1 million, but you have to produce $1.55 million worth of dentistry. After you produce 1.55 million, the PPO companies take $550,000 off the top. Now you have $1 million to pay all your bills and then make a profit. That's why your overhead is really high, because that money just vanishes right off the top, like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, it's like getting taxed twice.
Right.
So, okay, let's say I'm a dentist, okay, and I'm thinking, okay, now I get it. I have high overhead. And as a dentist, of course, especially with what you're saying, Naren, my goal is to reduce my overhead and, keep doing what I do that I love. How do I get it to 60% or less? Where do I start with something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, I studied, I did my undergrad in Chicago at a university called Illinois Institute of Technology. I studied computer science there, and I joined IIT in 1994, and I graduated in 1997 December. So three years and one semester. And who was playing basketball at that time? That was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He just came back. So we were like enthralled. I've never watched basketball or been interested in basketball, but man, when you see Michael playing one game, you become addicted. I mean, the guy is just a phenom, right, when it comes to basketball. And one of the things, of course, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, though they're like the three musketeers plus Phil, the coach. So one of the things they kept talking about is, the best defense is the best offense. If you are attacking your game, and you're on the offense, it's hard for the other people to kind of, attack you. So you don't really have to defend much because you're the one going on the offense. I just watched the World Cup finals, the soccer World Cup finals. I don't know if anybody's into soccer, but I am not into soccer, but of course it's a World Cup final. So I saw it between Argentina and France. And one of the things that Argentina did really smartly is they were on the attack. The entire first half, they were just attacking. And before you know it, they were up 2-0. Anyways, it was a great game. France came back, but eventually Argentina won. Watch it if you haven't. It's an amazing game. I think it's one of the best soccer World Cup finals in a long time. So go on the offense. So how do you go on the offense? Right now, the reason practices become so dependent on PPO is that's the only way they get new patients. That's why 70-80% of their patients are, PPO patients. What if you can find a way where you can get a patient for spending less than 1%, instead of giving up 45 to 50% every time you see a patient from PPO? What if you can only give up 1% of what you make to in marketing fees? And the answer for that is the most effective, and the most effective meaning the best patients you're going to get, plus the most cost effective, meaning the lowest cost possible. That's 1% of what you collect. That's SEO. So dominate Google SEO, replace, your PPO new patient flow with Google SEO new patient flow. So that would be my first answer, right? Go on the offense, do what Michael Jordan and, the amazing Bulls did in the 90s. They're always attacking. So create that new patient source from SEO. That's the first answer. Second is, now, not all plans are equal. Ben is an expert. He can help you with working with plans and figuring out which plans to keep and which plans to drop and so forth. But if, drop the worst offenders, the ones that pay you the least, drop them first. So that would be my second answer, right? In other words, you don't have to, if you're in bed with 10 plans or 5 plans, and a lot of times it's even more because of all the plans that they're connected with, drop the worst one, because once you drop the worst one, now you are dropping the one that's hurting your overhead the most first, and then drop the second most worst one, and so forth, right? In terms of what percentage they're paying you. So those are the 2 tips I would recommend, Ben, with regards to, how to reduce your overhead.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing that. You just brought back some great memories about the whole Michael Jordan era. It was fun era to watch for basketball. I know that instead of spending 45 to 50% on PPO write-offs, I can spend 1% on SEO and get patients who come in, and they don't come with the expectation about insurance, right? Or don't come in for the reasons that I'm in network. What do I need to know about dominating the Google SEO platform so I can get a high ranking when you're talking about hundreds of different types of search terms that people would be looking for when finding a dentist? What do I need to focus on there?
Absolutely. And I think you made a good point. The other benefit of an SEO patient is they're not asking the question, is it covered by insurance, right? Because that's not how they found you. They found you by typing in Invisalign, typing in crowns, whatever their needs are. So those patients are the least price sensitive patients. They will write the check. So that's one advantage of the Google SEO patient. So Google makes a lot of money, just like all private businesses. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world. So Google made $209 billion in 2021. And $209 billion, if Google were a country, would be the 56th richest country in the world. There'll be 170 countries with millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people that make less money than Google ads make. Not even the entire Google, just the ad part of Google makes for Google in a year. So it's in Google's interest to make SEO super hard. So 5% of dental practices get 95% of free traffic, and the 95% who get no traffic from Google for free, Google SEO traffic, so can spend the money on Google ads, right? So dentists spend billions of dollars on Google ads because they realize that they're not in that 5% that gets the free traffic. So they need Google ads to survive and run a practice. So the question you asked is, how can I dominate Google SEO and spend less than 1% of what I collect versus 45 to 50% in PPO write-offs? So there are 6 buckets that Google really cares about, and you need to get an A in every one of those 6 buckets. If you do get an A in every one of those 6 buckets, then you're going to crush it. You're going to rank. Like some of our clients get 50 new patients calls a month. They are ranking for hundreds of keywords and phrases on the top 10 results of Google, meaning that's page 1 of Google. So what are those 6 things? Number 1, it's Google EAT. EAT, expertise, authority, trust. I can do an entire episode on Google EAT. I'm not going to. We'll put some links so you can learn more about it. Number 2 is original content. You need to make sure that every page on your website has minimum 400 words and has 95% or more original content. Again, we'll put some resources. Number 3 is quality backlinks. The links that are linking to you, and whether they are links that Google loves or not, will make a difference on whether you rank or not. NAP, very, very, very important. NAP stands for name, address, phone number, consistency. Again, we'll put a resource. You want to be the site with the most amount of NAP listings with consistent name, consistent address, and consistent phone number. Some of our clients who we've been working with for a few years have 100+ sites with consistent NAP. Number 5 is Google reviews. Get at least 10+ love letter Google reviews a month. Again, we'll get into that in one of those episodes in the future. So these are some of the things you can do to crush and get into that top 5% of Google, so you dominate your market for SEO.
That's awesome. I imagine that most of our listeners are probably not doing very well with SEO. They're not ranking for even 10 of the top search keywords, right? Let alone the hundreds and hundreds of keyword terms that people search for on Google all the time. When you're looking at elevating that ranking there, Naren, where can you start other than the things that you already mentioned?
Absolutely. So we'll offer something complimentary. It's the marketing strategy meeting. It's a 90-minute meeting where our director of marketing would spend 6 hours researching you and how well you are doing. And then based on that, we'll give you a plan. And the plan is we have 14 teams that work for our clients. 9 of them focused around Google and SEO, and 5 of them focused around making the phone ring once you start showing up on Google for free for thousands of times. So it's a very comprehensive 12-month plan. So at the very least, attend that, marketing strategy meeting, find out where you stand as opposed to your competition, and then get that 12-month plan. And then if you decide to work with us, we would love to help you, but doesn't matter if you decide to work with us. Take that plan, make 2023 your best year yet, and go on the offense, right? Like Michael Jordan did. I mean, to succeed in life, you have to go on the offense.
Absolutely. A great tip from the book Art of War. is have a very aggressive offensive strategy, right? Attack, attack, attack. And so, to book this marketing strategy meeting, which I highly recommend, visit ridjournal.com/MSM. MSM stands for Marketing Strategy Meeting. Naren, it's always so great to chat with you and to pick your brain on a number of things. It is very apparent that you're very much a true expert when it comes to all things marketing. And I personally learned things that I could apply directly to my business, especially the website things that you mentioned. So thank you so much, Naren, for sharing your expertise with us today. If you love what we do here at ridjournal.com, tell your friends and share a review on iTunes or YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. Till we meet again, I'm your host, Ben Tuine.